Alright, so this second video, we are still in the 7.3 targeted review. We are going to do numbers 1 and 3 here. Actually, I might put this all in one video. We will do 1, 3, and 5. Alright, so number 1, I'm looking at which side is the more complicated side. I definitely think the right hand side is, so I'm going to start there. And now, I'm just going to turn everything to sines and cosines and see if I can find any algebra to help me out here. So, secant is 1 over cosine of x minus sine of x times sine of x over cosine of x. Now, I am multiplying these two things. The other thing to help me out, yes, I turned it into sine and cosines. Also, I'm trying to get this down to just one term, a cosine of x. So, because of that, I am going to make, I want to try and combine all these together. So, I want to combine these two. I'm going to just multiply. When you multiply fractions, you just multiply the numerators and the denominators together. So, you should get cosine of x is 1 over cosine of x minus sine squared of x over cosine of x. Now, these two fractions have the same denominator. They have a common denominator already, so I can just combine them. And then, hey, 1 minus sine squared, I actually found that up above. That is the same as just cosine of x. So now, hey, if I have cosine squared, that's like cosine times cosine. One of those cosines is going to cancel out with the denominator of cosine. I am going to be left over with just cosine is equal to cosine of x. So I have just verified that identity. Looking at number 3 now. You can kind of go either one. I am going to choose to start working on the left-hand side this time. Again, I like to personally just turn everything to sines and cosines. So I'm going to turn tangent into sine of x over cosine of x times sine of x. And that's going to equal secant of x minus cosine of x. Again, I'm going to combine these into one fraction, so I'm going to turn this over to 1. And again, I multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. Sine squared over cosine of x. So that's 2. And now, sine squared, that is an indication use part of my Pythagorean identities. Sine squared is normally sine squared plus cosine equals 1. So I'm going to get, I just want sine squared, that's going to be 1 minus cosine. So 1 minus cosine squared of x over cosine of x equals that secant of x minus cosine of x. Right. And now, if you had me, this is my method to solving this. If you ever have two things added or subtracted in the numerator over my denominator, I can split them up, and I use the broken heart method, and you break it right through that addition or subtraction sign. So this is going to split it up into 1 over cosine of x minus cosine squared of x over cosine of x. Realistically, we went the other direction. When normally you have two things, when you have the common numbers, you can smush them together. Here we had the thing already smushed together. We're going to split it up into the two pieces. The next thing is here, things start to cancel. So 1 over cosine of x, that is just secant of x. So we're starting to get on the right page. Cosine squared over cosine, hey, that squared is going to cancel out with the cosine. So this is just going to be a cosine x, which is exactly what we needed to get. So we've just verified that identity as well. And lastly, we will do number 5 here for us. So I do think the left-hand side is a little bit harder here, so I'm going to take it, I'm going to turn everything into sines and cosines. So 1 over sine of x times cosine of x over sine of x. I'm going to put this over 1 again just to help me out. And hey, I see I could multiply them together, but also since I'm multiplying and dividing everything, these will cancel out. So I have just 1 over cosine of x. Kind of over 1 still. However, cosine over 1 is just cosine. So I do end up having 1 over cosine. Now, because this is still the denominator, this is just going to be secant of x is equal to secant of x, which is what I was looking for. Sorry, bottom wasn't cut off. Here we go. Sorry. These signs cancel out, so I have just 1 over cosine of 1, but cosine over 1 is just going to be cosine. So I am left over with that numerator 1 over cosine, and 1 over cosine is just secant. So I have secant is equal to secant, which is what I needed.